today's episode of Bad Bow Reviews, we'll be discussing Simon's RX Raptor Bow. In particular, this sample is 34 pounds at 28 inches with a max draw length of 32 inches. This is sample number 38 on asiaticbow.info. Have you ever wondered what a premium laminated Asiatic bow is like? Wonder no more, as this is a premium Asiatic bow.
男ってのはね、こういうの渡しておけば喜ぶんだよって先生が言ってた。
Clocking in at 890 euros at the time of writing. This is a handmade Sousou style bow with small string bridges, cross-weave fiberglass on the belly and back, an action bamboo core, a vague tan leather grip, and a stingray skin arrow pass. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at this bow. Usually, I don't talk about things that aren't just a bow, but I'm gonna bring this up for this one, as Simon's done an exceptional job of packaging and presenting the bow. The bow arrived well packaged in bubble wrap, which is standard. The bow sock is a thicker, sturdier material than most bow socks are, with a little patch on which Simon's logo is inscribed. But what stood out to me a lot is this little booklet. I don't think that I need to tell you how vague most bowyers are about the bows that they sell. Every other bowyer basically just sends you a bendy stick, a string, and a cloth bag. But not this bowyer. Simon sends along a little booklet. Inside the little booklet, we have an illustrated guide on how to string the bow, a labeled diagram of a bow, and most impressively, bow specifications. I've bought a lot of bows, and not once have I ever had a bowyer actually tell you what wood is in the handle or the siyas. This is honestly a first, and this is great. On the other side of the booklet is a set of instructions, which I won't go over, but you guys can read it, I guess. Anyways, back to the actual bow. This bow has wide limbs that are noticeably both reflexed and deflexed. They taper noticeably in width. The core on this bow is an action bamboo core. On either side of the core is what makes this bow an RX Raptor and not a regular Raptor. Cross-weave fiberglass. Most laminates use unidirectional fiberglass, which is a bunch of glass fibers, all oriented in the same direction, held together by resin. This bow, however, is made using glass fiber that is cross-woven. The benefit of this is that it significantly increases the torsional rigidity of the bow. In other words, this bow is not twisting. Moving on to the siyas, we see that there's this imitation Macassar wood. This bow has small string bridges made out of linen phenolic. These bridges are small, so there's not much dead mass. One really small detail on the siya is that the fade is hollow ground. The side of the bow here isn't flat. Instead, it's slightly concave. The siyas narrow, and then they flare back out at the tips, where they are reinforced with linen phenolic. Note that this bow has a satin finish and not a gloss finish, unlike most laminates. Going back down to the grip, we find that this bow has a fairly large grip. The grip is done in vague tan leather, and it is hand-stitched. I prefer this, as it ages better and has better grip than chrome tan. It's also thicker than the standard chrome tan grips, so it feels better to push against. This little bit of rolled leather at the edge forms a sort of shelf for your arrow. People who have shot this bow seem fairly divided on whether or not they like this. The rayskin arrow pass is red and quite nicely finished. It's actually sanded down. One thing to note is that there are still gaps in the stingray skin, unlike on mariners. I've brought this up to Simon, and he's experimenting on how to fill those gaps in on future bows. The arrow pass on this bow is fairly wide. Overall, this bow is a very solid bow that definitely handles like a premium bow. The fit and finish are impeccable, and holding it, it feels like a weapon instead of a toy. A lot of other bows feel like toys, but this is what a bow feels like. This is a medium-sized Asiatic bow, sitting at 147 centimeters unstrung, with a strung length of 134 centimeters. The limbs taper in width from 43.2 millimeters at the widest to 35.3 millimeters at the narrowest. They also taper from 7.3 millimeters to 5.1 millimeters in thickness. The stock brace height is 16.5 centimeters, which is just between the mean and the median brace height of Asiatic bows. The weight of the bow is 435 grams. The arrow pass is pretty wide, coming in at 25.3 millimeters, which is wider than average. The sears on this bow have an effective length of 21 centimeters. Let's take a look at the curves on this bow. This bow does not have a longbow point, so within its draw length, there is never a point where a theoretical longbow would have more energy than it. The draw force curve has a fair-sized hump in the beginning of the draw, giving it a fair amount of energy storage, but the rest of the draw force curve is pretty flat. Looking at the stacking curve, we see that his bow hits 5.8% at 32 inches from the belly, which is where most people would start to feel a stack, as well as being the bow's maximum draw length. Comparing this bow with the Yuan Ming Carbon Ceramic, which is another premium small-tipped Asiatic bow, we see that the two of them have fairly similar draw force curves, although the Ming is flatter in the region of 15 to 25 inches, and then the Ming starts to curve upwards faster. With regards to the torsional rigidity of this bow, the cross-weave fiberglass certainly makes it incredibly stiff. This 34-pound bow is torsionally stiffer than an 80-pound Daylight Monarch, a 50-pound Carbon Mariner Ming Moon 3, and a 40-pound Yuan Ming Carbon Ceramic. In regards to what this practically means, please wait for a video on torsional rigidity where I'll explain it in depth. Casually shooting, I was able to get 196 to 197 FPS across multiple tests with a 330 grain arrow at my draw length of 29.5 inches, or about 8.2 grains per pound. I was able to replicate this multiple times, so I can confidently say that this is a pretty fast bow. Overall, this is a premium bow with premium features that comes at a premium price. It's definitely very different from the experience that you get with Chinese laminate bow manufacturers. With a very open and communicative bowyer who is hand-making a very nice bow. That's all for today, and thank you for watching.